Hey, what's up guys? TB here back again with another raid video, and today I thought we'd go over the update 2.2 highlights. Now, this is going to be a very long read. Yeah, let's get into it. Greetings raiders. The time has come to reveal what update 2.2 has in store for you, and it's going to be some big news. We can just read all this here. Artifact Forge. Remember that little campfire in the middle of Bastion? Yeah, it gained a level and grew to a proper Arcane Forge. Arcane Forge, where summoners from all across the area can craft powerful artifacts to equip their champions with. This feature will be unlocked to players of level 30 and above, which is when the Artifact Forge building becomes accessible. Tapping on it will bring up the Forge UI, where you can craft artifacts from specific sets by spending a resource called Materials and Silver. There will be 4 types of materials. Magisteel, which you can earn by winning classic arena battles. Soul Stone, that's cool. Rare, epic, and legendary, which you earn by winning faction wars battles. Cool. Bloodstone, also rarities, obtained from faction wars. Core Hammer, interesting name. Legendary only. This is a special material that can be obtained by scoring a certain number of points in tournaments. So that's going to be the pay-to-win material, basically. Tournaments and events will award various materials as well. Keep in mind that a maximum number of Magisteel, Soul Stone, Bloodstone, and Core Hammers that any player can keep is 10,000 each. Anything that goes over that level will be lost, of course. So this is what it looks like. Guessing there's a Bloodstone, different types of Bloodstone, and then the Magisteel. Once you have enough materials stored, you can begin crafting artifacts. To do so, you just need to select. Hang on, I'm very tired. You just need to select the desired artifact set and the rank which you want to go for. Once that is done, you spend a set amount of silver to begin crafting, and a random artifact from that set will be forged within the chosen rank limits. It's that simple. I want the flat boots though. Flat defense boots. But if you want to craft a specific artifact, want to get a specific artifact, like a shield or boots, don't worry. We've got you covered. There is another resource you can get. You can use in crafting, charms. So this is what they also showed off on the video. Better rank, better rarity, specific artifact type, specific substats. You can apply up to 4 charms at once, but only one of each type. They will be available as rewards for tournaments, events, and in some cases advanced quests. 50% chance. Okay, so in the video they showed it was 2%. That's much better, in my opinion. Super set, good accuracy, that's what you need on that, right? Yes. Let's take a quick look at the artifact sets. So, Resilience and Perception are the 2 new ones. This one, well, I'll probably have like a minor use. Well, Perception is a straight up boost to the regular accuracy set, and I'll be going for this definitely for like my Ceres or my Sylar. Then we got the 2 Platinum sets. So 18% speed, 30% crit damage, and 50% chance to get unkillable for 1 turn. There's a 4-piece set, of course, and deflection is 20%, basically an upgraded version of resilience, where you get more HP, more defense, and then a 1 in 4 chance to deflect a debuff. And that's just the beginning, so they're obviously probably going to add more. Watch out, yep, there's a video. You already know the Doom Tower will feature new artifacts and materials needed to craft these sets. The Forge, and again, this is just what we have stored over the next few updates. Expect to see even more later on. Cool. Advanced Quest, they showed this. If you saw my other video. Now, this is one of the features taking what you already know and making it better. So basically what they're going to say here is, you know, Advanced Quest is basically a slightly harder daily quest system. Once a month you can get a legendary book if you do them all, and then it resets. No need to go over that. Yeah. Small bonus, so you get the small bonuses here. Now here's the juicy stuff. Champion balance. With the above in mind, you can be confident that the role of PvP arena battles in your player progression, both classic and tag team arena, will grow. So it is more important than ever to ensure a fair playing field between different teams and champion compositions. To that end, we'll be releasing one of our most comprehensive balance patches in 2.2. The goal is simple. Bringing some champions down a notch while keeping them viable and, at the same time, improving other existing champions to make team compositions varied and interesting. None of these changes were made on a whim. Our dev team reviewed long-term game data community feedback, specialist analysis of existing PvP and PvE meta. Analytics. The most obvious example of this would be the undead lovey-doveys, Rotus and CVs, the Lost Groom and the Lost Bride, respectively. Very broken. They are the subject of many debates within the community, but most importantly, analysis shows that these champions, paired or individually, take part in 90% of all arena battles in Gold 4 and above. 90%. Unfortunately, they're extremely difficult to counter and thus become a no-brainer choice that damages arena team diversity. Yes or no? They aren't extremely difficult, but they're over the top. Naturally, we have no desire to make these champions unusable or even just average, so changes you will see below aim to bring Rotus and CV in line with other top tier legendaries while minimizing the impact on gameplay for those who already have poured a lot of effort into them. We increase Duchess Ability skill cooldown for the same reasons, as that is one of the least painful ways of balancing her without affecting the champion's core strengths. So straight up telling you what they're doing to her. While there are a couple more nerfs, the vast majority of changes in this patch are positive. Many epics and legendaries who lacked a certain spark to each of their potential will hopefully receive it now. As always, game balance is an ongoing effort, and this update will not be the end of it. There are many other champions on our list, so expect to hear more in the future. Red color signifies a nerf, while green shows a buff. Alright, here comes the juicy stuff. Attacks. Yep. So, he has a 25, Rotus now has a 25% chance of granting an extra turn on his A1 instead of 30%. So, that leak was right. Damage slightly decreased on his A2. It didn't hit very hard to begin with, but I can see why. Because if you have a lot of HP, that does really hit hard. His A3. Attacks one enemy will ignore 60% of the target's defense instead of 75 or 80, can't remember. Will also ignore unkillable and block damage buffs. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived if this champion has max HP on the Vitality Plunder skill. Grants an extra turn as this skill kills an enemy. So what I'm hearing is you have to at least use the A2 once before you can block revive, which is a needed nerf, because A3 hits stupid hard and then block revives an extra turn is just too much. Now, grants an extra turn as a skill kills an enemy. I'm thinking that's left unchanged. Bug fix. Fix an issue causing incorrect damage calculation for the skill. Effectively, it will result in a slight damage reduction. Oof, let's hope it's not too much. Alright, CV, the other big hitter. Fills enemies of allies by 10%. I believe this was 15 or 20% beforehand, so that is a pretty big change. And the cooldown is brought up. I think it's a 1 turn unbooked extra. I think it goes, instead of 3 turn cooldown, it'll be a 4 turn cooldown. And then we have the passive. Yeah, so the leaks were right. Heals each ally by 10% of the max HP. And I believe that was 15 or 20% last time. Which again, it's helpful, but it's CV, man. It's not going to do crazy amounts. Arbiter. Fixed a bug that had the Arbiter. Interesting spelling, wording. Filling a team's turn meter by 30% instead of 20%. I noticed that. I was just sure if I was just seeing things, but I noticed when I used to revive on to boost my turn meter instead of using the attack up with the boost, I noticed it was the exact same. Anyway, Duchess level 2. Oof. Cooldown is now 6 unbooked. I see a lot of people panicking about that on the raid Discord. I don't think it's massive. Of course it's a nerf. It's a decent nerf. Was it a needed nerf? Yes and no. She needed some sort of extra nerf because of how broken she is in certain places. But I think they could have done something a bit less impactful. Because we got this. That's alright. Removes all buffs. It's only okay, so Madame Ceres's removed buff and decrease defense and decrease attack. It's now only 2 turns instead of 3 turns. Now, that's not going to do anything in arena unless you're running versing a tank team where they can recover faster. That's about it, and they didn't really change anything. Corona. I think this is A1. Attacks all enemies, 50% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 5%. Okay, so that used to be 10%, I think. So I believe a double hit. Yeah. Okay, I thought this. I misread that. Okay, so this used to be 10%, and double hit used to be 20%. That's been halved. That's fine. That's fine. He needed that. I have Blind Seer. Places a. Okay, this hasn't changed. I think. Okay, no wait. She places a block debuff on all allies first. I think that's the change here. And then her revive no longer does damage to herself. And the cooldown is now 6 instead of, I believe, 7 base? Or 8. And then increase ally defense battles by 34%. I don't think that's changed. I could be wrong on that. I haven't checked, but it's not green. Some of these are different and they're not green, so I could be wrong on that. And then we have Warlord. I know for a fact this is a 1 cooldown increase because I checked before, and when you book it goes down to a 3. Actually, no, I think the base was 4 and you book it to 3, and now it's a 5. But he places his block debuffs first for 1 turn, I believe. So he used to freeze himself, but now I believe he's going to place that first, so you know, that's a buff in my eyes. I think one of these might be slightly higher. Not 100% sure. I think this might be higher. That seems way higher than normal. But that's good. He needed that. I have Crew Traxer. Attacks one enemy. 75% chance of placing a 25% weaken. I'm guessing that's booked to 100% now. And a 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs from the target. So I'm guessing these were like 50% each or 25% each. And then booked to double that. Or like from 25 to 50 or 50 to 75. Now you can book it to 100%, I believe. Which, I mean, sure. I don't know who would put accuracy on her. But sure, I guess. I think you could use a tiny bit more. Alright, Go. One of the champs I really want. Removes 2 random buffs from all enemies. 80% chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. So this used to be 1, it's gone to 2. That's really good. And I believe that's the same. And the cooldown has been reduced by 1? I can't tell because maybe that has, I don't know, I'm confused. I'm not 100% sure anymore on the cooldowns. And his base speed has been from 92 to 98. I checked that one earlier. So that's a good speed increase because he was quite slow for what you wanted him to do. Alright, now we have Alika. Disorient. Attacks all enemies. 75% chance of increasing the cooldowns of all enemies by 1 turn. If that's booked to 100% now. Actually, increase the cooldowns of all enemies. That doesn't do anything if she goes first. So that's kind of stupid. So that wasn't really anything. Elder Skarg. Attacks 1 enemy 3 times. Places an extra hit for each. Okay, so that's normal. Steals all the buffs from the target of the attack. Now that can potentially be really good. And then we have his A2. He now places a provoke debuff on legendary champions for 1 turn. So I can see that being really useful in gold and platinum, where like everyone uses legendary champions. But he can potentially get himself killed, but hey, that's an alright buff, I guess, considering it already does so much already. And then his passive inflicts damage equal to this champion's attack when attacked by legendary champions. So is this, if he has 4,000 attack, will he do 4,000 damage? Or what? I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping it has its own multiplier. If not, that's kind of useless. But overall, he's got an okay buff. Not crazy, just okay. Kendra, oh my god, there's so many champions. So damage increases by 40% while attacking under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff. I believe this was 25 or 35%, somewhere along those lines. Receives 40% less damage while under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff. Also boosts his champion's damage by 50% each time this champion receives damage under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff. Does not work if this champion is the only one alive in the team. That's really good. So you can still build him like a really squishy, and he can still live a hit. He gets some turn meters every time he gets hit. So that's really good there. And then places a Perfect Veil buff on the champion for 1 turn each time an enemy's turn meter is filled. This buff cannot be removed. So basically 100% uptime on Perfect Veil, and it can't be removed. That's actually pretty good. Attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if the target is under any buff. I'm not sure what that was. I think it might have been debuff, or like a decrease something, I don't know. So I'm not 100% sure on how good that is. And then I think this is a 3. Perfect Veil, 50% attack buff, a 30% increased speed, and increased crit damage buff for 2 turns. That's good and all, but he needed an extra turn on his A3, because even Relic Keeper has that. It's a bit of a rip for him. But overall, his buff is pretty good. Would be amazing if he got an extra turn off of this though. Bit of a missed opportunity there. Rip. Alright. What's a Tormund? You got a buff to the chance of placing a freeze. It was 15% base, that's 20%. The 20% chance applies up to twice per enemy turn. Once for buffs, once for turn meter fills, in cases where an enemy receives multiple of these effects at the same time. Doesn't, okay. So you can only work twice, so there's a 40% base chance. And that's it. Which, I like this and I like this. That's good nerf, a good buff, in my opinion. And then I left this alone. Good. They shouldn't touch that. Now we have Bystophus. Attacks one enemy, 50% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn. 35% chance of placing a true feed debuff for 1 turn on target under block cooldown skills. I'd hope that would be booked to at least 50% for it to be useful on the A1. If that's booked to 50%, the A1 is pretty good now. Attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. Okay, that's good. And a 50% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. Okay. So I'm hoping this is booked to like 75%. If so, it's basically like a non-void Hekimon that doesn't go first, but decreased defense. I like that. That's really good. Though I'm pretty sure this is the one that doesn't hit very hard. But hey, that's a good buff in my opinion. Could use maybe a little more, because he's got really high base attack, but really bad multipliers. But, you know, good buff overall. I have Azure. I believe he's an epic void in Sacred Order? No, not Sacred Order, Bannerlords. Attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. This chance increases to 100% if the target has an increased speed buff. I believe that says A1. For an A1, that's crazy if the enemy has an increased speed buff. But without an increased speed buff, it's like slightly above average. Then we have Coup de Grace. Attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if the target has a stun debuff. Cool. The extra hit is always critical. Steals 50% of the target's turn meter if they are not under a stun debuff. Okay, that's really good. Places an extra hit if the target is under a stun debuff and it's critical. I'm guessing that could smack really high numbers. And even if they're not, you steal 50% of their turn meter. That's a really good buff for him. He might actually see some use now. Alright, now we go on to Bushy. Attacks one enemy, this attack is always critical. Places a 30% increased crit rate buff and a 15% increased speed buff on the champion for 3 turns. Kind of random, but I like it. See if that has any use in certain places. Attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense buff for 2 turns. This chance is increased by 20% for each debuff placed on this champion. So you don't really want this portion. But I'm guessing this was like a 20 to 25% chance before. And I'm not sure if this was even a thing. But for an A1, that can be potentially really good for Clan Boss. If you can book that chance up, of course. Now, I remember these because of Faction Wars. She hits so hard in Faction Wars. Attacks one enemy, creates an extra turn and places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. This attack kills an enemy. Yeah, see, this always kills one of my squishy champions. Damage increases by 7.5% for each debuff on this champion, stacks up to 30. And all I see is her potentially one-shotting tanks in Faction Wars. Oh man. Attacks one enemy, heals the champion by 15% of the damage inflicted. The heal increases by 10% for each debuff on this champion. So random, why for debuffs? I like it but I don't like it. No, you don't want debuffs. But I guess it helps alleviate how bad the debuffs are. Overall, yeah, I can see potential for this, that's about it. Peterless one. I really wanted to use him on when he was first released, but he just doesn't do enough damage. But both of his attacks now do slightly increased damage, so hopefully that's enough to make him viable somewhere as like a nuker. We have Bone Keeper. Attacks one enemy. This attack deals 50% extra crit damage. I believe this was 35% or 25%. So that could be like a single target nuke really. Like a mini Rotos type thing. And then we have Killing Haze. Attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if this attack is critical. Fills the turn meter of allies by 15% if this attack kills an enemy. Ooh, okay. So this will hit really hard if you crit. And you fill the turn meter of 50% of all allies. Yeah, Bone Keeper is actually kind of cool now. That could be really useful. Of course if you kill someone. So that's a good buff in my opinion. I got Missionary. Scales from champion HP. Okay, so he's going to be HP based now. Attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Has a 100% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn and a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. This champion's current HP is higher than the target's. What was changed to this? 50% decreased attack. You can't go higher than that. So I wonder what was changed there. Interesting. Also scales from HP, so he's a full HP champion now. Humble the Faithless. Attacks one enemy, decrease the target's turn meter by 50%. Has a 75% chance of placing 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. Also a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff. I know this hits really hard, so having this on top, yeah, that could be really, really good. I might have to try that one out. Overall, I think this is a really good buff. He might actually see some play now. Especially since he's a HP champion now. We have Jotun. So he's now a HP champion too. He used to always be a HP champion, but scaled of attack. I might actually build one, depending on how hard he hits. So A1 and A2 is just nothing but change from attack to HP. And then we've got his A3, attacks one enemy, decrease the target's max HP by 30% of the damage inflicted. Kinda useless. Damage increases by 50% if the target is under HP ban. Different cooldown, and it scales from. Ooh, he could be a single target nuker as well for HP. I might have to have a look at him in Faction Wars. Interesting. So this buff overall, it looks really good, but depends how hard he hits. Because, you know, going from attack to HP can really screw over the multipliers. For good or bad. We'll have to see. Alright, now we have to Shadow. Attacks 3 times at random. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken. When ascended, debuff 2 times. The chance of placing the weaken debuff increases to 100% critical hits. Yes! Okay. I used to use the Shadow in Faction Wars. I hated the random, and then a random again. But this is good. That's a good buff for her. And I'm guessing that cooldown was lowered from 4 or 5 to 3. I think that's her skill that appears when someone dies. Alright, now we got Maeve. Stupefy. I said Superfly. Attacks one enemy has a 60% chance of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn. So I'm guessing this was like a 40 or 25% chance. So for an A1, that's actually really good. That's a sleep. There's a high percent chance, so that can potentially be really good for an A1. And that Slobonoko attacks one enemy, places a stun debuff for 1 turn. Places it for 2 turns if the target is under sleep. So it's guaranteed now. I believe this was the only part of it. It attacks one enemy and places a stun debuff for 2 turns. So that's also a pretty good buff in my opinion. She might have some play as well. Interesting. Yeah, so Sawai Firstborn. She used to have a different name. They changed her name like twice, I think. Attacks one enemy. 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So that's straight up a new, and places a 50% increased attack buff, and a 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion. Okay. If it kills an enemy. Okay, so this is straight up 50%, and this is if it kills someone. If this can be booked to like 75% chance, I can see some sort of use. Maybe Clan Boss. Maybe Clan Boss. But that's like, that could be good. Utter Rampage. Attacks one enemy, attacks all enemies with the second hit. If this attack is critical, this hit deals 80% of damage inflicted from the first hit. Okay, it's 80% of the damage she did, but it will be a normal hit. So I think that's pretty useless in my opinion. Dead in reaction, attacks one enemy. For attacking, has a 75% chance of placing a 25% weaken. Okay, that can be kind of useful if it's 100% booked. But overall, I mean, good, pretty useless, pretty good. So overall, I'd say it's overall it's a positive buff. I don't know where I would use it, but maybe if someone has a user in Clan Boss. Taurus attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing a 25% weakened debuff for 2 turns. Guessing that's 100% if booked, or close to it, if it gives a debuff chance, of course. Yeah, if that's an A1, that's good. Toxic Nova. This champion receives damage to equal to 90% of the current HP. Places an unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turns. 80% chance of placing 4 or 5% point. Okay. That used to be 3. That's actually insane. It used to be 3, now it's 4. Zavia teams. Zavia and Elenaro teams are gonna love this buff. That's all he needed. He's really good. He was already good for those sort of teams, but now he's just insane. How many more we got? Oh my god, we have quite a few to go. Snorting Thug. Steals 2 random buffs from the target. I'm guessing that I think this used to be attacks all enemy steals a 1 random buff. I believe this is now 2. Can also targets defense if they have no active buffs. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So wait. Let's say they have 2 buffs on them, he steals them, and they have no more buffs. Does that now do that? Or does this go off only if they already had none? That'll be interesting to check out. Has a 30% chance of stealing 1 random buff from the attacker when hit. Because once per hit, counterattacks the attacker if they have no active buffs. Stealing. I believe this was removed. So that could potentially be decent, I guess. I rolled an okay buff, hoping what I said earlier is correct, where if they have 2 buffs, he steals them both, they no longer have any, and then he ignores defense. If not, then kinda useless. Rowan. Attacks 1 enemy, has a 60% chance of placing 100% heal reduction. Guessing this was like a 30% chance, or a 40% chance, so I mean it's heal reduction. And I believe she poisons based off something like this, I heard. Again, I can't check right now, but that's what I heard. So that could be interesting. Attacks 3 times at random, each hit has a 40% chance of placing a stun debuff for 2 turn. Okay, so that's basically a guaranteed stun if you have the accuracy, and I'm pretty sure it hits hard. Oh wait, never mind, this is the poison part, okay. You know what I just said about this. So that's just kind of meh. This is pretty good. And then we have Blade Surge. I believe the cooldown was reduced by 1. Skill upgrades improve chances of placing poison to 75%. Okay. Oh, I see. Yes. Okay, that's really good. She can potentially be a poisoner for clan boss now, though I believe her defense is really low. So it'll be like an early game poisoner. So yeah, overall, I mean, pretty good buff, I'd say, for Rowan. Then we have Hope. Attacks 1 enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a block buff debuff for 2 turns. What? That's kinda meh. Increase the duration of buffs on all allies by 1 turn. Places a shield buff equal to 25% of champion's HP on all allies for 2 turns. I believe this was 15%. Good buff. I like that. And the cooldown was reduced on Holy Storm. I was about to say this, but no, it says Holy Storm. So yeah, that's pretty good overall. I mean, useless, but this is really good. She might have some use now as well. Canoness. Attacks 1 enemy, 50% chance of placing a 50% increased attack buff on a random ally for 2 turns. Completely useless in my opinion. Like it really is. Attacks 1 enemy, 80% chance of placing a 50% decreased accuracy debuff and a leech debuff on the target for 2 turns. This attack is always critical. Okay, that's good. Clan boss right there. So I think with this, he's viable with clan boss, because I used to use her on my my newbie account, and now I think she'd be pretty good for clan boss. So yeah, overall, I mean, useless, but that could potentially be really good. Alright, now we've got Norog. Attacks 1 enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. That's an A1. Yeah, that's insane for an A1. If you can book it to like 60%, that's pretty insane. Alright, now we got his passive. He's immune to stun, freeze, and sleep. Decrease the damage taken by all allies that are under 1 or more buffs by 15%. That was, I believe that's the original. Decrease the damage taken by all allies that are under no active buffs by 25%. I'm confused. Here's the issue. Would you rather an extra 10% straight damage reduction or defense up? I mean, this, really good. This, kind of random. I don't know how I feel about that one. Astrolith. Attacks 1 enemy, places 2 bomb debuffs that detonate after 1 turn. This buff cannot be resisted. So this is like a single target tank destroyer. Okay, she needed more than that, but I mean, that's a good start after like the 4th buff. We have Harkorn, Smashable, I have him. I really hope this is good. Removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. He already did that. Maybe it was only for 1 turn. Okay. And that's the same. I mean, sure. sacrifices HP equal to 25%, and then he attacks them. Damage inflicted is equal to 50% of his target, his champion's max HP. Sorry. Always a normal hit, even if it kills him. Okay, so this used to be 50%. So yes, I like this a lot. He no longer half kills himself. Good buff. He needed more, a little more, but that's a good start. Now we have Bellano. Attacks one enemy, then places a perfect veil buff on his champion for 2 turns. Applies to ascended skill 2. Kind of random, I guess if you don't want him to die, sure. Overkill. Attacks one enemy, will attack the enemy with the lowest HP with any surplus damage if this attack kills an enemy. Okay. Kind of weird it's the lowest, but sure. Interesting. I don't particularly like this. And then we have his other one activates this champion's Sword Leader skill. Also activates Zarvia's Poison Rain skill when Zarvia is on the same team. So that is a nutty thing. If you have a Zarvia and a Bellano, or like a Bellano to Zarvias, use them as a blender team, to be honest. In Arena. That's insane. The issue is I have a Bellano and I don't have a Zarvia. But yeah, I think this is kind of meh. That's kind of weird, but this is insane right here. I like that. Abyss, the meme of Chang in Discord. Oof. Attacks all enemies, now has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense. Booked to 100%. I know that for a fact. So that is really good. It used to be 50% and booked to 75%. So she's now reliable and she hits her really hard on this. So I like that a lot. Okay. Deals an extra 30% crit damage if the target's attack is the highest. Ignores 30% of the target's defense if the target's defense is the highest. Okay, so that is now insane. That is actually insane. You can build her for HP. Make her really high HP, no attack and no defense. And this will do insane damage. Okay, got it. So she can be really useful now, especially in like tank team arena. Oof. Oh, Gurftalk. Removes all debuffs except poison. Debuffs from the ally. Okay, that's a really good change. Then heals them by 30%. Yeah, that's all the same. This is what was needed. Thank you for that. Places 3 2.5% poison debuffs on all allies for 3 turns. These debuffs cannot be resisted or blocked. Also has an 80% chance of placing a block buffs. Okay. I believe this used to be 3-5%. So they've cut the damage from 15% to 7.5%. So that's really good in my opinion. So I'm gonna have to test him with Clan Boss now. I'm gonna remove Battle and put him in, see how that goes. Might make a video on it, who knows. Take him off. Attacks one enemy. Okay, so this is all the same. Surplus damage cannot be critical. Oof. He needed this, and this isn't going to affect Clan Boss, but it was needed. Good. Didn't break him. I knew it that they wouldn't break him. That's good. I like this. This is the type of nerfs we need, where it's, I mean, technically it can be a massive nerf in PvE, but without like completely destroying what he does. That's good. Then we have, last but not least, Drexel Bledwin, who I use in my tank team. Attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a perfect debuff for 1 turn. This chance is increased to 100% if the target is under HP burn buff. Also places a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns if the perfect debuff is placed. So he's just got a lot better for tank teams. Nice. And his passive, 55% chance of placing a HP burn debuff for 2 turns on the attacker when hit. His champion's res increases by 10 for every enemy under HP burn. Stacks up to 50. So he just got insane for res tank teams. Damn. Because when you're a res tank team, you go for high res and you get last. So people hit you, and this is like an 80% chance or 75% chance when booked. So you can get 40 extra res. That's really good. That's not going to really help in PvE, but in PvP, it's amazing. And then miscellaneous. An annoying bug that removes accessory ranks from accessory chest preview on the bazaar will be fixed. Okay. Interesting. The release of the long-awaited Doom Tower draws near, and a specialties will be added to the game. Once it's there, tap on the image to see a more detailed explanation of this upcoming feature and its mechanics. I like the idea of that. So, overall, I think they could have done more, but what they did do, like, this is the most they've ever done. So, like, yes, good job. But I think they missed the mark on some things. Like, they could have done a bit more Sifi. I think they could have done something else with Duchess. Madame Ceres, like, doesn't really affect much. I think they should have removed, like, the decreased attack or decreased defense. On that, and that would have been perfect. But I think everything else I kind of agree with. Yeah, I agree with everything on that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be sure to read all of them out. Let me know criticisms. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you would like to. It's not necessary, of course. If you dislike the video, then go ahead and dislike it. But with that, I will see you in the next video. Adios.